Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. And well, it's the 1st of February. This year of 2022 has been crappy for the start. Hopefully, the second month will be a little better. And today I have an upload that it's just mind-blowing. And it'll make you start to question things. But before we get into that, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below, my merch displayed directly under this video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters of Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get into today's upload, shall we? So, about 8 days ago, I shared with you a cryptid-like canine that was found in Pennsylvania. Now, a lot of you are like, oh no, it was a mangy dog, a mangy coyote. It's not a cryptid. Well, the veterinarians didn't know what it was. The expert wildlife officers didn't know what it was. And they immediately sent the blood out for lab work. You know, people will be people. It was a dog with mange. It was a dog with, a coyote with mange. This and that. Yet, professionals, people who work with these animals on a daily basis and have studied for years, are somehow wrong. And the average Joe who listens to Cryptid Encounters and is on the computer knows more than professionals. I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying that I know anything. But to me, I listen to professionals. If they don't know what it is, I'm not even going to try to guess what it is. But now, at this point, I've got some kick-in theories. Theories that will blow your mind. Here's the first article. And yeah, you may have heard it, but I want you to listen to it with a different mindset, all right? And I'm not trying to insult anybody who said it was a dog with mange, a coyote with mange. I'm not trying to upset you or call you out in any way. Because you know what? We're all entitled to our opinion, and yeah, it did look funky. It looked real funky. Just bear with me, all right? And here's a new picture that you're looking at of this animal. January 22nd, 2022. Most of us probably feel confident that we can spot any old canine and simplify what it is by calling it a dog. It's not difficult to identify many of the breeds we recognize and keep as domesticated pets. And if we can't figure it out, mutt seems to work just fine. For animal rescue workers, these distinctions aren't always so clear-cut. They can make a big difference in how an animal is handled depending on whether it's lost pet or wild animal in need of veterinary care. Sometimes it's a bit of a mystery. Earlier this week in western Pennsylvania, a woman came across a cold and shivering animal whose tracks she had spotted outside of her home. At first, she thought it must be her neighbor's dog, but a closer look led her to question what kind of canine she had encountered. I wasn't quite sure, but its behavior, it was scared. It was cold, and all I could think about was this animal needs help, stated Christina Eath, a woman who rescued the animal in Fairfield, Westmoreland County, and spoke to WPXI TV in Pittsburgh. To get help, Eth contacted TJ's Rescue Hideaway, a small foster-based dog and cat nonprofit that focuses on training and rehabilitating strays. In the meantime, she managed to make the animal comfortable at her home. The rescue organization wasn't able to determine superficially whether the animal is a dog or a coyote. Both species are canine, but the lines can be blurred between dogs, Canis familiaris, coyotes, Canis latrans, and wolves, Canis lupus, since all are able to interbreed. The mangy and underfed state in which this animal was found made using behavioral clues less reliable than it may normally be in order to make a distinction. To play it safe, TJ Rescue Hideaway passed the animal on to Wildlife Works Incorporated, another nonprofit organization that focuses specifically on rehabilitation and release of distressed wildlife. They take in injured, ill, and orphaned animals of all kinds, including those who have been impacted by human interference, environmental contamination, or habitat destruction. They transported it here, and it got here, and I honestly couldn't definitively say what it was, said Morgan Barron, a certified wildlife rehabilitator with Wildlife Works Incorporated. It may be a coyote. We can keep it here, get genetic testing done, and go from there. Behavioral-wise, he's very timid, very scared, non-aggressive at all, which makes me lean towards a dog. Wildlife Works Incorporated said it is now treating the animal and has already collected and sent out samples to determine exactly what he is. Updates on his condition will continue. The timeline is expected to be 2 to 4 weeks. Pennsylvania has a growing population of wild coy wolves, a mixture of species that has sometimes been spotted in Philadelphia and the surrounding suburbs with greater frequency over the past several years. Another variation on this is a coy dog, which is among the mixed canines that research teams study to gain ecological information that helps inform wildlife management. The animal rescued in western Pennsylvania doesn't have an especially obvious resemblance to a coy wolf, but it's better to wait for results of genetic testing than to speculate at this point. This poor guy looks a bit like Wile E. Coyote after Roadrunner has gotten the best of him a handful of times. Fortunately, he's under the care of experts and should emerge from this experience healthier and happier. Here's a funny thing I want you to think about. Wile E. Coyote. Is he really a coyote? He's a bipedal, large, very skinny, but very tall, bipedal, dog-like animal. I didn't know coyotes could walk on their back legs. Just kind of a joke there, but really, come on. So I was looking at the picture and, speculating a little bit. Obviously, these are experts. The veterinarians were called in. They're not making any calls saying, hey, it's a mangy dog, it's a mangy coyote, it's this, it's this, it's that. So I was like, well, you know what? I know people are going to say it's mangy dog, mangy coyote. Maybe it's a chupacabra. Maybe it's an Americanized chupacabra. And then, of course, people were like, oh, evolutionary geographic change, it doesn't take place. But it does. Forrest Gallant, a wildlife expert, has stated so. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Forrest Gallant, Joe Rogan, Chupacabra. It is a fantastic interview. The interview is not all about that, but it's one of the best interviews I've heard on Rogan, and I love Rogan. But I'm fascinated by animals, all sorts of animals, and this was a really good one. He speculates that 2 breeding pair of thylacine came across, crashed in the early parts of 1900s. ashore in North Carolina on their way to the Bronx Zoo. These 2,000 escaped, possibly, and bred. Geographic change, evolution, turned these creatures into these large mawed, canine-like creatures that attack farm animals, goats, chickens, yada yada. Two different variations of the chupacabra. The reptilian winged-like thing, and then that is from South America, and then the North American, which is canine-like. So, or, then we go on a real far stretch. What about a very baby Dogman? I didn't even think of that until I saw the picture that we're looking at right now. And the next article came out about this crazy little critter. January 28th, 2022. Found on January 17th near a woman's front door in Fairfield Township. The animal was so emaciated that it was hard to know exactly what kind of creature it was. Pictures circulated around social media sent by those who wondered whether it was a dog or coyote. Wildlife Works Incorporated in Pennsylvania took the animal in for DNA testing and to treat it for mange. DNA results determined whether the animal was a dog or coyote could take 2 to 4 weeks. Maria Dillman, the president and head trainer of TJ Rescue Hideaway, who helped with the rescue, said the animal, who hardly had any fur, showed no signs of aggression and just huddled in the corner of his cage when he first came into the facility. He was completely emaciated, Dillman said. I do think that the animal looked at her, the rescuer, and just knew that she was a pure human, and she was going to help him. While the facility, the mammal did well, Dillman said. That is until Wednesday night. A staff member who got to the hospital building Thursday morning found the animal's empty cage destroyed. There were scratches on the wall, and the hospital itself was thrashed. According to Wildlife Works, the animal chewed through the window seal and screen to escape. News Nation local affiliate WJW reports, worst news ever, Wildlife Works wrote. He never acted aggressive or distressed, and there was no evidence of escape attempts. We had him for about a week, during which time he ate nutritious food and received treatment for his mange and secondary infections. Wildlife Works Incorporated states, we can only guess he was starting to feel somewhat better and decided it was time to go. To try to lure the animal back, Wildlife Works staff members left the barn doors open with plenty of straw. The staff is also out trying to track the animal. Hopefully those of you who know Wildlife Works know this is not our standard of care and will understand how devastated we are, not just for ourselves, but for that poor creature out there in the cold again struggling to survive, the rescue said. We're looking at pictures of this small, what Maria Dillman called mammal. Interesting word. If you think, why not call it canine or pup, whatever? Because even whatever kind of canine it is, it's going to be a pup, correct? So, but mammal, that's kind of weird. Just think about that one. The mammal was in a steel cage inside of a hospital, a locked hospital. It chewed through a steel cage and chewed through the window seal, and while destroying the hospital area with scratch marks and whatever it destroyed, and escaped. Or, and I know I may get some crap for this, but speculation. There's no proof yet. I can make speculation. You can too. What if it was a baby Dogman? A very baby. Like, what if it didn't have mange? What if it just didn't have hair yet? And Mama Dogman came back for that thing and proceeded to get her baby out of that hospital. That sounds more logical to me than this poor, emaciated mammal chewing through a metal cage and then chewing through a window, destroying the hospital to escape. First, why would it destroy the hospital? But a mama, any kind of mama would. Human moms, you kidnap a baby, that human mom is going to mess you up. I don't care. Just speculation. A lot of things don't add up. A lot of the wording doesn't add up. And to me, if you look at this picture and you just think for a minute, don't think of it as a dog with mange or a coyote with mange. Think of it as a baby Dogman. And look at the picture. Need I say more? I'm not saying it's 100%. And it may not be. But who knows? Do you think we'll ever hear the lab results? Doubt it. Doubt it. And if it was so content and happy, it just... Any animal that's content and happy and has food and has love and has warmth is not going to do the damage that it did. I mean, this thing is not even capable of getting up into a window. It's not capable of chewing through metal bars or little bars on a cage, let alone destroy a hospital, a veterinarian hospital. Yeah, okay. I'm not buying it, and neither should you. And that's that. Moving on. Let's get into some alphabetically state by state Dogman subscriber submissions. And we will start back off where we left with New Hampshire. Well, it started when my family decided to go with friends of ours to their cabin. This took place in Hillsborough County in New Hampshire. This happened in 1965 when I was 7 years old. I was going to the pond on a daily basis and got pretty bored with swimming and fishing. I noticed a path that went off to the east on a trail, so I decided to take it. I love trees and animals. I came upon a row of pines off the path and started to climb on the roots. Because they stuck out of the ground, I was at this tree near the path, and something told me to look around the tree to the path ahead. I looked and I saw what I deemed as a black wolf. I hid behind the tree with my back to it. As I went to look around the corner, it was right there and we locked eyes. I slipped on the tree roots a couple of times and finally got on the path face to face with this wolf. I brought my face up close to it to see the muzzle and the teeth and the tongue. I looked at its eyes, and they were black. I could see the white around the edges of its eyes as they moved. I wanted to pet it. Now, me not really knowing what a real wolf looked like, just figured that this was a wolf. To describe the creature, it was very tall at the shoulder. I couldn't reach to its back at all. And it had pointed ears with tufts. The mouth had pink gums with black spots, kind of like a dog. The tongue was dark, not red, kind of black. The canines were larger than dogs. There was a thick mane that went around its head with some going over its shoulders. I don't remember a tail at the time. I got it to let me touch the muzzle and mane, but it pulled back away quickly. I got the feeling it didn't want me there anymore, and I started to cry. So I started walking back to the main trail and heard my brother calling in the distance, so I called back. I turned around and the wolf was gone. I never heard it leave. In fact, I never heard anything when I was in its presence. No birds, frogs, or insects. It was like I was in a vacuum or something. When I got to the trail, things seemed normal again. I heard birds, insects, etc. Jeff, the encounters didn't stop there. That night, my mom told all of the kids they had to sleep in tents outside. I was horrified. I don't like the dark. Back then, I hated it. Well, I ended up in a tent with my brother. I couldn't sleep, and I was afraid of every noise I heard. Well, the second night, my brother was invited into the boys' tent, which meant no girls allowed. I was all alone in the tent listening to the night noises. Around maybe midnight, I heard a biped and a quadruped walking toward my tent. I'm thinking some guy with his dog. As soon as the dog hit my tent, it sniffed the perimeter. I'm thinking in my head, dog, go away and take your master with you. I was in this very small, beat-up junior army tent, and my back was toward one wall of the tent. As soon as this creature rounded the corner, it stuck its nose into my back and did one of those long sniffs that dogs do to really get your scent. Well, I panicked and yelled so loud and bombed out of the tent, not looking back. Started banging on the cabin door. My mom answered the door and I pushed my way in. She was not happy I woke her and everyone else. She tried to get me back out into the tent and into the cabin, and I refused. So I lied on the floor and I could hear from the open window something outside. I moved to the wall and I heard scratching on the outside at the other end of the wall. I scratched back from where I was and the creature moved very fast to my location and proceeded to scratch from the outside. I whispered, I'm sorry, but I'm scared. I don't know why I was apologizing to this thing. As I think about it now, it seems funny. Well, the next night my mom locked the cabin door and told her friend not to let me back in. I thought that was cruel, seeming I was 7, and scared this creature would be back. Well, it did come back, and I was lying looking up at the mesh window at the top of the tent. I saw a very large silhouette that looked like a dog standing up. I peeked outside to see a tan-colored wolf standing on 2 legs. And I got back inside of my sleeping bag, not knowing what to do next. I covered my head and prayed that it would leave. Well, to make matters worse, the black one was outside my tent as well, because it came into my tent. It couldn't fit very well, so it stuck its head in. I removed the sleeping bag from my head and looked. I sat up, and then it grabbed my sleeping bag and pulled me out of the tent, sleeping bag and all. I looked up at the tan one and was scared. It was looking at me. Well, this became a nightly routine. They showed up after everyone was asleep, pulled me and my sleeping bag out of the tent, and I'd be looking at both of the wolves and push me to get up on my feet and follow them. This went on for about a week or more. Some nights we would run into other campers. They'd jump into the brambles and hide, while I would have to explain why I was there alone. One night I told this teenager I was with my dog and that he was in the bushes. Then guttural growls would start, and I'd see the look on that person's face. I would giggle at the situation and tell them not to worry. He won't bother you, and the teenager proceeded to walk fast away from me. Jeff, there are some other hair-raising things that had happened, but I'm not sure if I should say. They just seem totally unbelievable, even though they happened to me. My God, I could write a book. There's so much to tell. I'll tell you what happened to me and my daughter in 2016. We were in the kitchen. I have since moved from the East Coast to the West. We were talking about Dogman, and my daughter and I heard a howl in the distance. We both looked at each other and said, "Did you hear that?" We both stopped what we were doing and tried to stay quiet to see if we were imagining it. We heard the dogs from up the road barking another howl. It was getting closer. As the howling was getting closer, the dogs stopped barking. I immediately told my daughter to remove the doggy door. While I went and locked the doors and windows, I made sure my dog was not in the yard. We had sliding glass doors on the back patio. I covered the glass with curtains so nothing could look in, and closed all the blinds. It was dusk and getting dark. I told my daughter, "Don't look out any of the windows." We tried to continue to do normal things without much fear. I heard something along the back side of the house in the alleyway. Then the scratching started on the wall. I peeked out at the end of the blind toward the alley and heard something at the bathroom window. I ran to my daughter's room, closing the bathroom door, telling her to use my bathroom since there were no windows. I heard growling and something climbing on the roof. After some time, things seemed quiet. Then there was a huge bang, like something was trying to come through the wall near my bedroom. The whole house shook, and even my dog started barking at the noise. I was scared to death. I kept my dog in all night. I didn't care if she went potty on the floor. My daughter slept with me as well. The strangest thing happened a few days after the incident. I heard a helicopter very close to my home. I went outside to see what was going on. As I exited out the patio to see Black Op helicopter flying low over my house, I could see this man in black army clothes and a weird gun in his hand. He pointed it at me, and I ran inside the house. It didn't seem to fire bullets. I don't know what it was for. He was hanging outside of the door looking at me near my glass door. He talked to the pilot and they left. They came back a number of days flying overhead, but I stopped going out there. It stopped after that, and that lone Dogman never came back as far as I know. I'm telling you, Jeff, and pardon my French, some really weird has happened and been happening. I've heard that some people are Dogman magnets, and it doesn't matter where you go, they will find you. Jeff, I'd like to remain anonymous. I don't want anyone trying to track me down. I don't care if they believe my encounters or not. I have my daughter with me, and I don't want her scared. Jeff, I also, during this, I had an encounter with a juvenile Sasquatch bothering me while I was fishing. A lot of crazy stuff has happened. I have a paranormal life, I guess. Hope this helps the channel. Your friend, and God bless. Final, New Hampshire, Dogman subscriber submission, and I just recently had this person on. So if it sounds familiar, that is why. Hey Jeff, I think I alluded to this in a previous email, but there's another encounter I had which may be of interest to you and others. I'm going to write it out in more detail below in a format which you can share if you'd like. Although I'd appreciate it if you'd leave my name out if you tell this. We only saw it briefly, but it was definitely daytime, so I saw everything clearly. Basically, we're walking along a residential street in New Hampshire and in the direction of a cul-de-sac with a trash enclosure, because black bears are known in that area, and they get into trash if it's not locked up. The enclosure was brown wood, at least 8 feet tall, taller than the average green trash unit inside, but I don't want to say height for sure because I was young when this happened. The thing I do know is that a weird bear, as I thought it was for many years, was about the size of the enclosure in height, and it was covered in black hair and was standing on its hind legs for the entire time we saw it. I don't want to say a height definitively, but in the range of 7 to 8 feet, if I'd have to guess. When we first saw this creature, we were maybe 200 feet or so. Sorry, I can't be super specific. Far enough away that when we saw it, it was standing still next to the trash enclosure. My thinking was that it's this trophy bear, which had been stuffed and was being thrown out by new owners of the nearby place. It was about the size of a black bear, which, to be fair, I have never encountered up close. So, since black bears are known to be in the area, I assumed that's what this beast was. We were heading in the direction of the trash enclosure, which had a path to the woods behind it. So as we walked towards this creature, both myself and my companion were curious about it. It seemed perched somehow, and as I've been listening to cryptid encounters on YouTube, hearing people describe the digigrade legs backward leaning like dogs of Dogman, I think that perhaps it had these. I can't swear to it, but I'm trying to remember it more clearly. The other weird thing is I can't remember its face at all. Like, I'll try to focus on it because I thought bear at the time and since, but I can't conjure a bear's face to it. It seemed thinner than a bear. Also, it was standing there on the street in the afternoon daylight and was standing still enough for us to approach it thinking that it was stuffed. But then the thing moved, and that is all I remember because both of us bolted when we realized that this thing was alive. Important note, the fact that I'm alive to type this email makes me think that it may not have been a dogman, based on hearing stories of its aggressive behavior. However, maybe this one was just curious. We didn't stay to find out. Well, like I said, me and him have talked. Dogman, how many deaths do we hear of Dogman? I mean, I'm sure there's a ton, but, I think their main, unless they're in a hunting party, like in the woods, but I think their main thing is to scavenge for food or hunt for food and scare the living bejesuses out of humans because they despise us. So I think that's probably why he's alive, is because it got what it wanted. It saw you guys running and probably crapping in your trousers. Also, perhaps it didn't want to chase two boys, but would have pursued us if we were alone. I think probably that is the most likely case, really. We saw it saw us, and I remember that it took a step forward. It definitely was on two legs the entire time we saw it. I can't remember how long its arms were, or some of the other details that people are reporting in their encounters I'm hearing recently. But I think they were roughly waist length, not gorilla-ish long, like Sasquatch or some dogman have been described, and altogether looked sort of like a black bear. Again, it was about 8 feet tall and covered in black hair. I didn't think there was anything except bears in this area which could fit such a description. It's weird to me that I cannot remember its face. It was daylight still, so I don't think we would have seen its eyes glowing, but maybe that's what was suppressed, like people describe in some of these encounters. I don't remember it having a snout or a noticeably long face. It was definitely watching us, though, and when it turned its head to watch us move, that's when we did the Shaggy and Scooby-Doo running for our lives dash. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed these encounters from New Hampshire and my speculation. Like I said, it's just theory. It's speculation. It's not gold. And it doesn't mean just because I said it, it doesn't mean I necessarily think it 100%. I think it a little bit because there's just too much going on. A small animal like that can chew through a metal cage, chew through a windowsill that it could probably barely get to, and then destroy a hospital area. No. What makes more sense is the mama dog man found her baby and brought him home. And with that, please be kind to each other, and may the Great Spirit watch over us all, and may he guide us down that path we call life. Until later on to the paranormal side, my friends. Until then.